It actually grows a full foot every day.
There's no way.
Really, seriously, during a summer in Georgia, you can sit with a bourbon and literally watch the kudzu grow.
Kudzu's an invasive species, right?
Yeah, it was brought here from Asia to help control erosion. So, of course, it actually made everything worse, just like Nutria.
Oh, time to go honey. Don't get me started on Nutria.
I won't. Don't worry. I definitely won't. It's happy hour somewhere. So, welcome to Drinking Dusties, where we get to uncork one-of-a-kind history in a bottle by tasting some liquid time capsules.
So we can let you know what's worth trying to seek out on your own and what may be better off left buried in the sands of time.
Hopefully not this one. I'm Charles Cox. I wrote about whiskey at Maxim and Men's Journal magazines, and now I edit the annual World's Best Whiskeys Guide.
And I'm Steve Russell. I like bourbon and being a curmudgeon who hates pretty much anything except bourbon.
That is a true story. So why don't you go ahead and lift up our mystery box here. Let's just jump right in.
Do it now.
All right. Jump right in.
There we go.
All right.
I think I've told you before, I hate Irish whiskey.
Actually, I'm not a huge fan of it either, but this ain't Irish.
Then we're looking at some new ridiculous level of false advertising.
Yeah, I can explain. What we may have here is a bit of a rare holy grail. You'll see. You'll see in a minute. So
I'm officially skeptical.
All right. Well, tell me what you see on this decanter bottle.
I see a St. Patty's Day mass vomit of Irish pride.
Right. Okay. Well, I don't hate the design quite as much as you do, but I'll admit it's very busy, covered with Irish County crests and a tourism portrait from the Emerald Isle. But what do you see on top here?
The sticker?
Yeah. What does that say?
Old Commonwealth. Take straight bourbon whiskey.
Exactly. So you know that name?
Well, why would they bury that in a sticker at the top of this bottle?
Well, that I can't answer, but one of the many mysteries of the decanter crazy bourbon glut era was they did stuff like this. But of course, that brand wasn't as nearly as coveted back then as it is today.
Yeah.
For anybody out there who's unfamiliar with the Old Commonwealth label and don't know how this could possibly be one of the most sought after whiskeys around, Steve, check the underside of the bottle.
Oh, okay. All right, Chad, can we punch in on that?
Let's hold that lid on.
Yeah, I will. It says Van Winkle and Son Distilling, 1978.
Yep.
Holy moly.
Keep that top on the bottle.
Yeah.
We don't want to waste a drop.
Yeah. I have so many questions. First off, how the hell did you get your hands on this?
More than a little blind luck, to be honest.
Yeah.
I found this in an online estate sale rather than a liquor auction. So I think most people wouldn't even notice what was inside this or know what could be inside the bottle. In fact, I think the seller was likely confused as to why this old ceramic decanter was getting so much attention.
So did you have to get like in a bidding war for this baby?
A little bit, but I also think the fact that it had been previously opened actually kept prices down. So if you're hoping to buy a bottle as an investment and flip it for profit, it really still has to be sealed with an intact tax strip across the top if it's from that era. This one had a broken tax strip and had been opened and partially consumed, but it's still about 2/3 full.
Yeah, full of what though? I suspect hobo pee.
There's the rub. Any bottle that's been previously opened could be ruined in any number of ways. Even oxygen getting into the bottle can potentially skunk the juice. That is the scientific term.
Of course.
Yeah.
Or they could have already drunk all this as a Weller Van Winkle liquid gold and then replaced it with another whiskey.
That's actually not as unlikely as it sounds. These decanters were made at a time when distillers couldn't get people to buy their delicious aged bourbon, and these special bottles were a gimmick to get them to buy.
Right.
But if you like the decanter, its very nature convinced you to keep it and reuse it.
But how many people would actually do that?
Some. It's impossible to know, but just as likely as that somebody's teenage kids drank the whiskey inside it, and then they just refilled it with tea or whatever, so it still looked normal.
Yeah. How many teenagers, though, would choose whiskey over beer or vodka or all that other stuff?
Right. Not again, but not many, but again, some. And then there's the lead problem.
What?
Glass bottles, typically, at least in recent decades, are lead-free. But not so for ceramic decanters, especially ones made overseas back then, and most were made in China.
Yeah.
So there's more lead in these decanters than in glass, which can slowly leach into the whiskey over time.
Yeah. So you're definitely trying to kill me.
Well, yes, obviously, but not with lead. It would be a tiny amount, and it's not like you're drinking multiple decanters of this stuff every single day.
Yeah, not every day. I try to take Mondays off.
You're looking out for your health. I appreciate that.
Yeah, right.
So,
you can just notice.
Yeah, my point is when you're buying a previously opened decanter, you're taking a few risks. Yeah. But that also helps keep the price down if it's just something that you want to try out and drink yourself.
Yeah.
So buyer beware, but you can sometimes also find a hidden gem like I think I did.
Okay. How much did you get this for?
$160.
Damn.
But adding on fees, taxes, and shipping, because I got it online, it cost $232 total, which is still what a fraction of what an unopened bottle of Stitzelweller Van Winkle whiskey would sell for today.
Yeah, if that's what it is.
Well, there's only one way to find out, right?
Yep. Let's do it.
Let's get those glasses.
Yep.
All right, I get the honor of pouring.
All right, gimme.
Nope, me first.
All right.
And the gimmies.
Just don't give me your usual stingy pour. Yeah, a little stingy.
As always, we start our whiskey neat, and then we add what we each like, ice, water as needed. You drink your own whiskey however you damn well please.
right away.
Yeah, that's strong.
I mean, it's got a big nose.
Yeah, big nose. A lot of cinnamon.
Yeah, it smells like bourbon.
Yeah, it's a very good sign. Not iced tea, not hobo pee. Yep.
Unless the hobo was drinking a lot of bourbon beforehand, possibly.
That's true. I didn't think of that. Oh, man. I get deeper ones. There's cherries. It's like stewed cherries, like cooked prunes, toffee, dark chocolate, marmalade, definitely cinnamon, lots of oak. Definitely a lot of oak.
Wow, that's a lot. But yeah, it's fruity, but old, like cooked fruit, like a fruit cake, which you should never, ever eat, but it smells pretty nice.
All right.
Or, okay, I got sherry, and that oak is in there is pretty old and musty.
Right, but it's not like a new cut piece of wood like you get in a craft whiskey nowadays. It's like somebody gave you an antique desk. Let you open the drawer for the first time in 30 years, and you took a big whiff from it. That smelled that great old smell.
It's the single weirdest note I've ever heard.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
So this was bottled in 78.
Yep.
We know it's been opened, and it's been here a while.
Yeah. So that's the year I turned 2. So it's had 47 years to mellow out in this decanter.
Okay. Does that make a difference?
Well, yeah.
I thought whiskey stops aging once you take it out of the wooden barrels and put it into the bottle or decanter.
Well, yes and no. It depends. How's that for annoying?
That's super annoying, actually.
All right, I'll explain. So whiskey really only ages to any noticeable degree when it's in wood. In fact, a lot of whiskey scientists.
Whiskey scientist.
Yeah, I mean, if only we'd known about that potential career path in high school, right? That is an actual job. But they say that whiskey gets 70 to 80% of its flavor from the wood that it's aged in, rather than the original grain that goes into it or the distillation process. It's the wood that gives it the flavor.
Delicious charred American virgin oak.
Exactly. But Dusties just taste a little different.
Seems like it.
Yeah. Of course, not yet. Don't drink it.
I'm not.
Brands are different from each other, but there does seem to be an almost universal fuller flavor with these Dusties. More well-rounded, more balanced, more slightly musty.
Yeah, they taste old, but in a good way. Like the flavor equivalent of listening to your favorite album on vinyl instead of Spotify.
That's the right analogy. Yeah. The pieces just seem to fit together more cohesively. But why? Nobody knows. There are all sorts of theories, and I'm sure we'll discuss all of them in our videos.
But not today.
Not today. Not today. The one theory is that this whiskey does continue to age more in the bottle, just not nearly as dramatically, and without evaporation, assuming your cork is intact. Yeah. And this one is.
Yeah, it really
mostly,
is. Yeah.
Mostly.
Yeah.
So if nothing else, it does certainly mellow out a bit.
Yeah. You opened it up, so can we drink it already?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But soon. No. Not yet. First, we need to tell everybody a little bit about the history of Old Commonwealth and the illustrious Van Winkles.
For sure.
Even if you don't know anything about bourbon, you've heard of Pappy Van Winkle, right?
Indeed.
All right. So the funny thing is that he wasn't some revered whiskey god during his lifetime. He was just a whiskey maker trying to sell a product. He wasn't even a master distiller. He was on the business side as the company president, right? So he set a tone for his employees with a mission statement. On the sign, the gate to his distillery, it said, "We will sell fine bourbon at a profit if we can, at a loss if we must, but always fine bourbon."
Yeah, I actually really love that. Straight and to the point.
Absolutely. It set a simple, quality-focused tone for everybody who worked there.
Yeah.
And it was reflected in his whiskey.
For sure.
So Stitzel Weller was formed in 1933 from the merger of the pre-Prohibition partnership of Julian P. Pappy Van Winkle and Alex Farnley's wholesaler Weller, you know that Weller name, with A. P.H. Stitzel's distillery, which during Prohibition was one of only 6 distillers in the whole country granted a license to keep distilling whiskey for medicinal purposes.
6. I could have sworn it was 10 or 12 or 8, possibly 7.
Yeah, we do seem to get a different number from every single source. So the point is, regardless, it dropped from hundreds to a handful.
But hey, whiskey cured everything, apparently, from polio to fascism.
Yeah, and we haven't had either of those things since. So after Prohibition, they built a larger distillery in Shively, Kentucky in 1935, where they made 4 brands ranging from light and sweet to more robust and rich. So Old Cabin Still, Rebel Yell, Weller, and then Old Fitzgerald.
Good quartet.
And while other distillers expanded and capitalized on new trends, Pappy stayed in his wheelhouse, just making high-quality aged bourbon.
And that's why that name is so revered today.
Well, no, not really. We love what he did as bourbon fans, but it was a horrible business plan. Tastes change, and he died in 1962, right at the beginning of what we today call the bourbon glut, when Americans discovered lighter beer and vodka, and they basically stopped drinking bourbon because they felt it was their grandfather's drink.
Right.
And so his son, Julian Van Winkle II, tried valiantly to keep things afloat. He released lower proof whiskeys, doing private label bottlings for clubs and restaurants, put out kitschy decanters like this one, anything that would stick to the wall. Speaking of the wall.
Yep.
Let me hit the wall. All right.
That's an awesome decanter.
Yeah.
A shame it's empty, though.
Yeah, so that's a Stitzelweller Old Fitz decanter. But it was tough making ends meet. And by 72, to avoid breaking up his family, because his siblings were also shareholders, he sold off the Stitzelweller distillery to a corporate conglomerate called Norton Simon Inc.
Those heartless bastards.
Well, not exactly, but also worse than you think.
Oh.
Realistically, Van Winkle was going to go out of business anyway, eventually. So selling to a bigger company gave him an off-ramp. Unfortunately, all Norton Simon really wanted was the Stitzelweller name and the reputation so they could blend in their own crappy bourbon from the Kentucky River Distillery and sell it at inflated prices, which they proceeded to do. So that's basically what killed the Old Cabin Still brand.
Note to self, don't spend a lot on a dusty bottle of Old Cabin Still from after 1972. I love that even back in those days, they qualified it as their entry-level whiskey by calling it the Sportsman's Bourbon.
Exactly, but they weren't all bad either. They actually kept Old Fitz and Weller as they were at their high level of quality with Stitzelweller distillery juice. So they do get credit for doing that. And crucially, they worked out a deal with Van Winkle that let him use his own distilled aging Stitzelweller bourbon to make his own boutique whiskey brand, Old Rip Van Winkle.
Yeah, it's a fascinating, convoluted story. But what does any of this have to do with Old Commonwealth? And can I fucking taste this by now?
Almost, I promise. Sniff it again to tide you
I'll
over.
do it.
All right, so after Julian Van Winkle II died in 1981, to add to his son's troubles, Julian Van Winkle III was told that Stitzelweller wouldn't bottle his aging bourbon for him anymore. So according to Julian himself, they told him to
take a hike.
Exactly. So he bought up what he could. He took the barrels to the old defunct Hoffman Distillery in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky, which was now just operating as a bottling plant for mostly decanters. And he bottled it under a new label, Old Commonwealth. So those bottles today go for thousands of dollars at auction when they very rarely come up for sale. But back then, Julian was still having the same troubles convincing people to buy aged bourbon, so he had to do gimmicky decanters like this one.
Please, let me try it now.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, man.
It's so sweet. It's so sweet and
Yeah.
yet hot and yet, let me guess, tastes like bourbon.
It does taste like bourbon. No, it actually tastes like liquid heaven. This is definitely not Hobo Pete.
Holy shit, this is so good.
Yeah.
I get notes of Luxardo cherries, caramel apple, vanilla, cinnamon, nutmeg, dark chocolate, lots of old oak. There's so much. It's like you're drinking out of an old wooden cup with that oak.
Like I said, it tastes like really fine bourbon, like one of the best bourbons, similar to that very expensive half ounce of very old Fitzgerald we had at the House of Commons in Frankfurt
This
last year.
tastes so much like that.
Yeah.
More Stitzelweller magic that was.
Right.
So
how the hell is this an extinct whiskey? This should be like as well known as Pappy, I think.
Well, Old Commonwealth does exist and is super expensive and sells out seconds after it comes out.
Yeah.
But that's a completely different, new sourced whiskey that just bought the name and the old distillery to bottle, and they try to milk the name for everything it's worth. To be fair, I haven't tried it because it's so tough to get, and I hear it's actually good. But
maybe that distillery will send us some to try after they watch this.
I seriously doubt it. The point is, that's a different whiskey. And this is a good time to remind all of our viewers, based on what you just said, that you and I purchase all of these Dusties we're reviewing out of our own pockets. We don't get any freebies, and all these stupid opinions are our own. Yeah, exactly. And as for why this brand doesn't exist anymore, well, it was just a really shitty time to try to sell high-quality aged bourbon. There was basically no market for it in America, and many of Julian Van Winkle's bottlings were small labels exclusively for the German and Japanese markets.
We seriously owe all those fuzzy foreigners for keeping our quality bourbon alive during those years.
Indeed. There'll be more on that in an episode where we talk about Wild Turkey. But Julian Van Winkle III was bottling incredible whiskey despite the odds, but he was just barely scraping by. Hoffman went out of business, and they told Julian to have to buy the tumble-down bottling plant and warehouse if he wanted to keep going. It was falling apart. So he had to put up equity and take out loans just to stay afloat. Meanwhile, Norton Simon sold Stitzelweller, then it sold again and again, and eventually it ended up in the hands of the drinks behemoth Diageo, who actually closed the old distillery down for good in 1992.
Great idea. Which is why everything with that name on it is now like worth a fortune.
Mostly. Beware of the modern day stuff that's really just bottled there, and yet they still traffic on the name.
Right. This is really great. All right. And we'll likely never get to try it again.
Yeah, and when it came out, it was about $20 a
Ooh,
bottle.
Weak in the knees.
Here's the cool part that make this bottle an even rarer find. What year did we say it was bottled?
78.
And how old was it?
8-year-old bourbon.
Yeah, so that means that this was distilled and put into barrels in 1970.
Okay.
So it was actually distilled by the Van Winkles at Stitzelweller 2 years before they sold it to Norton Simon.
Okay.
Then it sat in barrels, aging in their old warehouse back at Stitzelweller until it was bottled in 1978 as Old Commonwealth, before everything started falling apart. So this is a Stitzelweller whiskey, bottled and aged there that was never out of the control of someone not named Julian P. Van Winkle.
Wow.
Distilled by the second, and then aged and bottled by the third. And there are not a lot of bottles left on this earth that can say that.
Yeah, honestly, that's super deep is my appreciation for this. Thanks for sharing it.
Mm-hmm.
And now's the part where I really get to break your heart and remind you that you agreed to share this treasure with one other person.
I did?
Yep. It was your stupid idea. In fact, with every episode, we'll be picking one of our generous Patreon patrons at random and sending them a small sample from the Dusty bottle we taste that week.
That's not so small.
I made it a little bigger for this one.
Since we just launched, we don't have that list of patrons yet, but we're still going to set aside this very special treat to send to one of you soon. We'll pick a name at random.
So if you want to throw your hat in that ring, support us on Patreon.
And be sure to subscribe and like this video. And you can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook for more new yet dusty content. Yeah. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Until then,
keep it dusty. Cheers.
Skull.
All right, I'm gonna put a piece of ice in it.
Yep.
We're gonna get bad comments, but I'm gonna put a piece of ice in it.
Steve's putting ice in the
So
Stitzelweller Van Winkle
I am
whiskey.
putting a piece of ice in this.
But purely
over
for
it.
science. Purely for
purely
science.
Get over it, people.
You know what? I'm going to do the same. Because you know what? To be honest, a lot of people poo-poo putting ice. That we like to drink it without it first, just to see what it's supposed to taste like. But then adding ice or a little bit of water changes the flavor, right? Especially as it starts to melt. Sometimes it makes things much better and brings out new flavors or accentuates them that you don't want. Sometimes it ruins it. But
I'm kind of wondering what it's going to do. Like, I'm getting that wood flavor, but it's not super oaky. I can't help. I'm going to say this. It is almost that ridiculous death thing you said.
See, I told you.
I'm not going to acknowledge you should have said that like to people.
In public. I should just save that for you after 20
and
drinks.
then I could talk you down a little bit. But it's like it's got a deep wood character, but it's not like I instantly go like, oh, it's so oaky.
Right.
You know.
No, it's not overpowering. But it is old wood regardless. Like seriously, the death thing was ridiculous, I admit. But it is like I have the old Norwegian cup at home that I like to drink whiskey from, especially if I'm out walking because I'm not going to break the glass. But you get a little bit of woody character just from the cup. That's what I get in this. It's like I'm drinking it out of wood.
Wait a minute. You go out walking?
Once or twice. Before I ripped open my ankle.
I learned so much when we do these things.
It's from the guy who almost died while walking in Norway.
I was only trying to walk about 6 steps so I could take a leak.
And you almost drowned because all of us were drinking way too much to save you. If you'd almost fell in the ocean in the middle of the night in Norway.
Yeah, in the middle of a fjord, I learned they call them there. But yeah, I'm lucky I didn't hurt myself much worse than I did.
You hurt yourself pretty bad. You could barely walk the horse.
My foot was purple and black and green and various other shades for 2 weeks. This is awesome.
I love this.
Yeah,
I was worried. I was definitely worried that it could have been something else. It could have been something could have gone wrong.
Yeah,
this did not go wrong.
What's great about a story like this is there are unanswerable questions. Like you can look at this, you can look on the internet, you can find out a lot of stuff. Yeah. You will never know the answer to the question, how long was this opened? Like when did somebody take a drink for this and go like, wow, that's really nice, but I'm going to put this back in.
Here's the crazy thing. Look at that cork again. Pull that out.
Yeah.
It's wet.
It is wet.
How is it wet? When the whiskey level's down here and it's been closed, it wasn't on its side. It's been upright.
And I feel like, honestly, this is kind of cool. I feel like I've seen a lot of corks on decanters and stuff. And you don't usually have the cork continue to like the whole surface of the bottom. I
wonder if that helped preserve the seal.
That's what I wonder myself as well. That's what I wonder.
It is totally plausible that the fact that this was only 2/3 full has nothing to do with somebody drinking part of it. Could have just been pure evaporation. Right. And the tax seal, because it wasn't intact, it was ripped, but it's not off by any means. Right. So it could have just been damaged over time and transport. So,
but that presumes that. Yeah, that presumes somebody opened it, smelled it, and then didn't drink any of it, and it evaporated. Maybe
$160, dude.
Yeah,
for Stitzelweller. $160 for Stitzelweller.
Yeah,
this is why we love hunting Dusties. Yeah. 9 times out of 10, it's a wild goose chase. Like the fact that you keep dragging me to your local liquor stores every couple hours to look for this mysterious drop.
We're going out right now.
Yeah, he's been checking his watch to make sure that we can't go find another bottle.
I really respect you for going off of the usual just auction path and finding this on a different kind of auction. Yeah. I also really hate you for it.
But I shared it with you.
You
Steve.
did share me with it, and I'm probably going to sneak a little more of it out.
Sure.
I'm going to send this out to one of our viewers. No, we will send this out to one of our viewers. We're actually really looking forward to doing that. Really looking forward to doing
because here's the thing with You and I talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
We do drink bourbon by ourselves. We have to because it's our job.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Right.
It's tough. We have to evaluate bourbon on our own. But we definitely prefer drinking with other people. Bourbon it's meant to be shared, right? Like
absolutely.
It's not, as my cousin in Norway, who was my best man, and I was the minister of his wedding, he said to me years ago, he said, because he was opening up a bottle of bourbon that, or a bottle of Norwegian whiskey, actually, that the small distiller way up, it's the northernmost distillery in the world, Meakin. It's north of the Arctic Circle.
It's made from antlers.
Actually, they make it on an island that has no fresh water. They have to desalinate salt water.
I knew we'd have more to say. Like if I just freaking mentioned something.
And let's talk about antlers for a second. But anyway, sorry. So my cousin had a bottle. The distiller had only made 5 bottles of this batch. That's how small it was, ultra aged.
It's like Wu-Tang Clan.
And so he had one of them, and it had this much left in the bottle. And he opened it up. I said, "I appreciate it. I love you. Like we love each other, but there's like you save that for your clients or whoever you got to save it for." And he said, "No." He said, "They will always make more great whiskey, but this may be the last chance that you and I have to drink this bottle together."
Okay.
That's how I feel about this too. This may be the last chance for you and I, because you are going to die of lead poisoning.
It's a pretty good way to go, man.
If you got to pick, I mean, you could have a heart attack on a Peloton,
right.
Or you could drink some Stitzelweller and get lead poisoning. I'm going with that.
Easy choice.
I'm going with this.